there, brilliant people. So today I've got a lovely special guest with us. I've got Auset. Well, her full name is Auset Rohn, and she's a person who takes you on trips to Egypt. That's actually where I met her with Normandy Ellis when I was in the middle of writing my book, The Soul's Brain. But she takes you on a spiritual journey. She is a priestess of Isis. So when she takes you on the trips to Egypt, which she does with Normandy in her company, the Two Ladies Travel, and she also takes you on a spiritual journey in her work, which is not only the actual tours, but is the work that she does every day online and when she does readings and stuff, and that's the goddess inside, and I'll put a link to that below. So very special welcome to you, Auset. It's lovely to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that we connected in beautiful Egypt, and you know, we've just become global, both of us, since then. So I love it. Egypt works its magic. It truly, truly does. Yeah,
it does. It's amazing. And I mean, for me, you know, Egypt is obviously quite dear to my heart. It's obviously dear to your heart. And of course, we are actually talking about ancient Egypt a little bit more. That's pretty obvious from your wonderful backdrop, which is one of your photographs you were telling me. So, you know, for you, which came first, intuition or Egypt?
That's a really good question, because when I was young, I grew up in a very religious home. And so Egypt and the Exodus, that was, you know, some of my favorite parts of, you know, the Bible. And I had this book called a concordance that had each book of the Bible broken down, and like photographs from the Holy Land, and the passages on Exodus I always went there because they had photos of the pyramids and the temples and the mummies and all of that. So I was very intrigued with it. And I was very close to God at that time, you know, so growing up in the Christian church, I had my devotions every day. I said my prayers. I felt very close to God. And then as I grew up and kind of grew away from the church, I was able to explore spirituality and divinity in a different way. And then I would say then that Egypt came to me at that point, like in a really incredible way. I was in a channeling class, and at the time I was very new to all the new age metaphysical, you know, meditation and all of those things. And
sure.
Our teacher used to channel, and it intrigued me, and she was teaching a class. So I took that, and I thought, of course, I was going to be channeling one of the archangels, because that's where I was, you know, focusing, and it was easy because I, you know, had come from church background. But then a being came and, you know, said that their name was Hathor. And I had never heard of this name before. And I sent it away 3 times. And then finally, on the 3rd time, very patiently, you know, she said, I am Hathor. And I was like, okay, fine, you're Hathor. And this presence just entered me. I don't know how else to describe it, but my heart was racing. I couldn't catch my breath. Like everything was just tingling all over. And I didn't know what this was. And so I came out of the meditation, and, you know, I was like, what's a Hathor? Because I couldn't speak, but I could feel this energy. And she was like, oh, well, that's an Egyptian goddess. So I feel like Hathor really kind of called me, pulled me, led me into Isis and becoming her priestess, and, you know, developing all of that, the program and learning. And it's been quite a wonderful journey.
So is that also where the name for your website comes from, the goddess inside, or did that? So
yes,
so that's lovely. So it's actually a very personal name for you. So that's lovely.
Yes. Yeah. When I was ordained as the priestess, then I had to wait like a year and a day to found my own Iseum. And I was trying to think of what am I going to name it. And it was so impressed upon me during my studies that Isis is within, and that whole aspect of the word neter in hieroglyphs and ancient Egyptian, which in turn means the divine being, the gods, the goddesses, and then that becoming our word for nature. I mean, it's just the divinity of everything around us is even inside of us. And so I couldn't get, I couldn't let it just be a concept. I made it a thing. So that's the name of my Isium, is the Isium of the divine Isis within. And then I did the goddess inside, because we all have the goddess, some aspect of Isis within us.
Yeah, of course. And so your journey was, well, each one of us, we have a very interesting, unique journey, I find. So for you, with everything that you've been through, what is your understanding of intuition now? I mean, what if you had to just explain it to someone? I mean, you teach, so you probably do. But so how do you explain what intuition is? Like for you, how do you describe it so other people know that it's that thing, not that thing?
Yes. So a lot of times I'll get asked the question, like, what is your gift? And I know that they're meaning, are you clairvoyant? Are you clairaudient? Are you clairsentient? And I ask them, I'm like, do you mean one of the clairs? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I said, I actually have all of them. But really what I work with, I think, is the claircognizance, where it's this knowing that just comes in. I also will get, I guess I hear things. And so when I'm describing what intuition is, it's when you have a feeling or a knowing about something, or you sense something that feels like it's coming from outside of your being. So like sometimes if you feel people that are intuitive, and I love to use the example of the grocery store, because when you go to the grocery store, you're going to be around people who are possibly stressed for money. So they're very stressed out because they got to figure out how to budget. Are they going to be able to buy this steak? Or are they going to have to buy this chicken? What are they going to do? They're going to have to buy all generic things. So they're worried about money. A lot of times there are mothers shopping with their children. So they're stressed because little Johnny is wanting, some Frosted Flakes or, Cocoa Puffs. And she's like, no, we got to get Cheerios because they're cheap, so and the kids are hungry and she's tired. And I mean, just the grocery store has everything in it. And when sometimes you go into the grocery store, you might feel fine driving there, it's a sunny, beautiful day. And then all of a sudden you're halfway through the store and you're just like very irritated at everything. And you feel rushed and you feel, like, oh my gosh, I can't decide, which bag of chips I want or whatever. And you're wondering, part of you is wondering, like, what's wrong with me? And that's because you can tell it's not coming from within yourself. You're picking up everyone else around you. So I guess that's how I describe it, is when you can feel or know something that doesn't feel like it's yours, then that's how I would describe intuition. Yeah.
I mean, when I teach intuition, I often talk about there's the internal alignment and then there's the external alignment. Because for me, intuition, I guess it is about strengthening your connection to who you really are, and that's the internal alignment. And the clearer that foundation is, then absolutely, the easier it is to tell where all those feelings or sensations are coming from. Because you get that that clearer distinction. So that's great. So I mean, you've already told us a story of your intuition about when you first met Hathor, if I can put it that way. So is there another story, or is this how do you work with intuition in your I mean, you're working with very spiritual energies and concepts. I mean, how do you generally work with intuition in your work?
So there's like two parts of me. There's the spiritual world that I deal with and I teach in, and that's my work. And then my like muggle job, if you say, it would be as a photographer. So, I'm shooting weddings and senior portraits and things like that. So my intuition in my spiritual work, I'm led by the Neteru. So earlier this spring, I don't know how to describe it. Feeling the presence of Hathor, like she's just right there, and wanting to have a statue of her that's in the shape of her form as a cow, like is in the Cairo Museum. Something popping up on my Instagram, like, and then me finding that, and then me thinking about her and her talking to me about ancient practices and gratitude and gifts, and then Googling that, because I always, I listen for the guidance first, and then when I can't find it in a book or something, I go to Google. It's my second favorite guide outside of the Neteru, and finding something about an ancient practice called the 5 Gifts of Hathor, and I'm like, okay. And so then I was reading about it and listening to Hathor, and I put together a class, and then she told me she wanted a birthday class celebration, and then she told me about another thing. And so I just listened, and I would find the things in the books that I needed and go through the ancient texts and find those things that I needed. And then I started to feel Sekhmet coming close. And now I've got a workshop coming up with her. So that's how my intuition works in my spiritual work. And then in my outside of my life, a lot of times I'm second shooting at weddings. And so I'm working with other photographers, and I worked with one for a while. And I just, I knew when he would need a different lens or what he was going to be, if he was shooting something, I felt him struggling with something, I would ask him a question, like, what lens are you using, or what is it you're looking for? And he was always like, how do you know when I need something? Like, how do you know what I need? And like, and he would look at me and he'd be like, are you reading my mind? And I said, well, not like on purpose, but it's just who I am, And so it helps me. And at one wedding, a lot of times you have to communicate with the DJ, and they should let you know during the reception, like, hey, they need to make sure that us photographers are in the room when they announce the couple. We can't be over here still eating our dinner in the other room at the vendor table, and then him introducing the couple, or having the first dance. Like, we need to communicate. And there was a young kid at one wedding recently, and I had it in my mind. I was like, he's not going to communicate with us. We're going to be over here eating, and he's going to call things out, and we're going to rush over there, and I need to talk to him. Well, when I went to talk to him, he was way on the other side of the venue. So I was like, all right, well, I'll let it go. And guess what happened? We were at the vendor table eating, and all of a sudden he is announcing, we're going to have the couple come and do their first dance, and we're just like, so we're running over, grabbing our cameras, and trying to get set up. But I'm just like, Auset, you knew this. Like, why did you not make it a point to go talk to this guy? So that's how my intuition works in both of my worlds.
Yeah. And that's to me is what I call that external alignment. It's like the internal alignment is about helping us get clear on who we are and what works for us and how to create a life that works for us. And the external alignment is really helping us navigate through the co-creation of all things with other people. So yeah,
and even sometimes too, just in life, I'll have dreams about someone, and like they seem off, or they seem different, or our interaction is not like it usually is. And then, like a couple days later, I'll talk with that person, and I won't tell them, I had this dream, but everything that I dreamt about in the back of my mind when I'm having this interaction with my person, it's like, okay, that's why I had this dream. Like, this is what's going on with them, so I get tied in with my friends and family.
That's wonderful. So if other people, you know, who are listening to this, you know, is there some little, you know, tip or trick that you could sort of share with them that they might find good to use? Because you know, one of the challenges that people have, it's a little bit like in that story that you told us about when you first met Hathor. You know, to begin with, you know, you told it to go away because, of course,
Yes.
you know, you weren't really sure what it is. And of course, yeah, a lot of people, when their intuition is talking to them, that's why they never develop it necessarily consciously, or it never really benefits them the way they could, because yeah. So is there some tip or trick that you use that really helps you work with your intuition and in a, you know, in a more useful way that you'd like to share?
Yeah, and it sounds super simple,
Mm,
but that makes it powerful. So I think it's what you're talking about too, with this internal compass that you have. You have to develop at some point in your day, what is your baseline?
yeah.
So when you're going into that grocery store, you check in with yourself. Am I hungry? Am I sad? Am I irritated? Am I stressed out about anything? What does my body feel like right now? You know, am I tired anywhere? Am I tense anywhere? And you get your baseline. It's like when you go to the doctor and you're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And they're like, well, let's do some blood work. And then 6 months later, let's come, you know, you take these pills, you change this diet, and you do this exercise. 6 months later, you come back and we'll check your blood work again, because then they have a baseline. They'll know, you know, what has changed. So
Yeah.
then when you go into that grocery store and you all of a sudden start to feel aggravated or things like that, you can tell. And for me, the best way that I can use to describe it is that those kinds of feelings that come from outside of you feel like they're under your skin, not in a creepy way or not in a way that makes you feel like extremely uncomfortable, but it's a feeling that is not recognizable because you've already determined how your body feels, what your mental state is, where your emotions are. So you know that this doesn't feel like mine. It's not, you know, lining up right. So I would say checking in with yourself when you wake up in the morning, you're laying there in bed, like, how do I feel? Like in my body, how does my emotions feel? When now you get out of the shower, you eat breakfast, you get some work done, it's mid-morning, you have to go to the post office. Check in so that you can tell. And another exercise that I like to have people do is, so let your body be your pendulum. So if you've ever used a pendulum, you know, it'll swing when you answer questions, and
Yeah,
your
sure.
body can be that. So when you are having a tough decision to make, a lot of times as a reader, I hear this one a lot. And people want to know, should I stay with this person or should I split up with them? You know, and it's like, okay, you have to, I don't know everything that's going on. Yeah, I'm psychic, but I don't know everything. But like, if you have these two decisions, I'm going to stay, I'm going to go. Put it in your mind, this decision, I'm staying. I'm going to work on things. I'm going to communicate better. I'm going to listen. And what does your body feel like? Does it tense up? Does it get nervous? Does your stomach, like you get an upset stomach and everything? Or does your body say, okay, yes, this feels good, you know? And then do the other scenario. I'm leaving. I am getting out of here. I am getting my own place. I'm not talking to them anymore. Like, we're done. And how does your body feel? And you'll start to differentiate anxiousness based on what you need to do, what your body and your soul and your spirit want you to do, and the difference between just the fear of the unknown. You know, so if you've decided to go, you're going to have some discomfort there, but sit with that a minute and see if it's just because, well, I don't know what to do if I live on my own. You know, how am I going to pay the car payment? Do I have to pay for my own insurance? What happens, you know, with the kids and all of these things? Like, these are all unknown things that can cause anxiety, but there's a different feeling of the anxiety when that's the thing that you need to be doing for yourself, because maybe you're in a really toxic situation. And for
Yeah.
you to think of being out of that, your body is going to be like, yes. And then those are the feelings. You're going to start actually then creating your life because you're following those feelings and you're listening to the things that your soul is trying to tell you. Like, this is the path. You know, you can always choose the path that's quote unquote wrong. But I feel like there's no wrong decision there. You know, it's like if you decide to stay or go tomorrow or 5 years from now, it's a right decision. You know, it's just, you're going to have a different experience between
absolutely.
today and tomorrow, and then today and the next 5 years. So,
so to me, that sounds like, you know, you mentioned meditation before, and really what you're talking about is, it's almost like in meditation, yes, you know, we work on mindfulness, but in some ways for me, it's almost like a passive observing kind of mindfulness. Whereas, you know, what you're talking about is almost like an active mindfulness, where you're constantly checking in with yourself, so that just like with meditation, you know, you're recentering, but you're taking that center with you through the day. So yeah, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. And then you learn to differentiate when information comes in, like when you're at the grocery store and all of a sudden the thought is your intuition of, oh, I need to get, you know, more bread. But your mind takes over and you're like, no, I just saw half a loaf in the pantry, like I'm good. And then you get home and that night you go to get some bread and it's moldy. So, I mean, your intuition was in the grocery store with you trying to say, you need to get some bread, but then we don't listen. So
no, well, like in the story that you told us, you know, it's almost a cautionary tale, yes. You know, one of the advantages of learning to no, this is my intuition, I really do need to act on it, is that we get that lesson quite a few times, I think, through our lives. Because when we don't listen, we do. It is, as you said, it's fine. It is a different path, but the lesson is, oh, yes, I should have listened.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's wonderful, Auset. I know you've got some tours to Egypt coming up. Obviously not during the lockdown, but on the other side of that. So I will put the links to your website down below. If people want to find those, if they're interested in the tours, they can do that, or they can get in touch with you. So thank you so much for being here today. It's been lovely to chat. And
yes, thank you so much. It's great to get in touch with you and be a part of all the new exciting things you have going on too.
Yeah, no, it's great. Okay, so everyone, I hope you got something out of that. You know, it's always wonderful to listen to different people's experiences and understanding of intuition. So continue to listen to your own intuition, and until next time, always be brilliant.